Hey there, YouTube. It's Petey Two Finger. How the heck are you? It's rolling into a Friday night, coming out of a Thursday, about 1 a.m. here in Chicago. I just finished a project that I've been incessantly yammering about for weeks on weeks as I waited for the parts to arrive shipping from eBay China. So I finished the headphone amp. I've shown off my battery-powered Max 4410 is the name of the chip that drives that. That's the amplifier chip. I've shown that off so many times on the channel, I'm not going to show it off again. That one runs on a pair of lithium-ion batteries. It's just a click switch, click volume knob. It clicks on, turns the power on. There's an input for your audio, and then a headphone jack output. That's it. Now, there's no power LED, and if you get to drinking and you end up taking a little snooze there and leaving your amp on, you'll end up running the batteries dry. So that's really the only thing about that one that I would change. And I may eventually see if I can tap into the board at some point, maybe on a capacitor or something, get some voltage and power an LED. Now, this PCB was loaded. It came with the parts installed, arrived today. I started working on it in the afternoon, and I just finished now, and I took a bunch of pictures in the process, so I thought that would be neat for show and tell. You guys can check it out. As far as the headphone amp thing goes, you know, if your headphones, if they're consumer grade, a lot of folks say you don't need it. Depending on your device, the amplifier, a lot of these portable devices, they're really low volume output. And the reason for that is there was a lawsuit. Apple Computers was sued because some child hurt his ears, did permanent damage to his ears with an iPod, and they sued Apple. So after that, a lot of devices that are released, they come up really shy as far as their output. So you put your headphones on, you turn it all the way up, and it's like, I could use twice of that, if not more, for my listening pleasure. I like it loud. So some people will say, oh, you don't need an amp. You know what? It's up to you. Me, I need an amp. And it's when your headphones are rated, when you look at the rating, there's an impedance of the headphones. And the pairs that I have right now, did you grab those Evos? They're 32 ohm. It's a 50 millimeter titanium driver. These headphones are an absolute delight. They're just a joy. And they're really not, you look at them and go, oh, how much were those? These were $37. Detachable cable, comes with a couple cables. Really like these. I might be, if I sell these speakers, I got some speakers that gotta go. If I get that money, I'm gonna flip it around and probably pick up another pair for myself. That'll be my fourth set of superlux headphones. They all work. I just love these headphones, and they have all different models that are slightly different. And I built this headphone amp because, as I mentioned, with the impedance, I'm right on the borderline where they say, well, you don't, anything over 32, you really need an amp to drive it. So I drive my headphones with an amp. That's what I like to do. And the other problem I have is my one ear is a little deaf. So I need to boost the volume in one ear. So I was able to build a custom headphone amp that normally has one master volume knob for both channels. I removed that and installed two volume knobs, one for each channel. So I can turn down the left channel a little bit, and that will make it sound perfectly balanced to my ear. So what do you say? Do you understand the concept of headphone amps? I would encourage you to build your own. Or you can go and buy one. They sell them. You could get a $16.95 with a couple of bucks shipping. They've got Chinese ones with a 300 milliamp power supply, battery, rechargeable battery. That doesn't sound like enough to me. That sounds like you'd be charging it every time you use it. But that's the starter model. Then they've got like $35 and up models. And I would also, if you want one, get a hold of me. It's not going to be cheap. Probably wouldn't be $100. I'd have to talk to you, see what you want, and see what I could do it for. But I'm offering that service as this was a fun project. Let's go ahead and take a look at the photographs. What do we have here? Okay, there's Mr. Bobitas. Are you guys seeing this? Yeah. This is Cheeky Bobitan celebrating St. Patty's Day. Here is the authentic NE5532 and the fake. You see the Texas Instruments. It doesn't look quite right over here, and this chip is a cheap fake from China. So when I ordered this amp board, it came with a fake. How do you like that? Now this is a shot of just to the right of where I'm sitting. I'm in the living room doing this project. I've got a multimeter, flashlight, wire stripper, remote control for the air conditioner, and some cat treats. Very important to keep Mr. Cheeky Bobitan satisfied. Now this is one of my favorite tools. These little nippers are small and I dig them. Favorite tool time. This is my favorite. I have these tools that if they're not within arm's reach, I start getting weird. I start flipping out. Where's my favorite tool? And this is my favorite needle nose. It's, I know you think, oh, I've seen that one at the dollar store. Nope, this one's smaller and it's just better. This is a really, really good needle nose. And I'm always losing it, but the drawer I keep it in has some neodymium magnets on the top, and sometimes it'll pull that sucker up and stick to the roof of the drawer. And today I was flipping out in a cold sweat. Where's my tool? She said, check the top of your drawer, you knucklehead. And there it was. So this is my Ultrafire lithium-ion rechargeable flashlight. This is a super bright flashlight, and I absolutely love this model. This is the one to get. I purchased a few, and I really don't like the way that the lighting works on them. Sometimes they're all condensed to a ball of light right in the middle, a smaller ball. This one you can focus it, and it'll make the beam wider and less intense, or focus it to a point. And this one just works really good. This is the one that I recommend. And I can't do anything without this flashlight. My wife and I use them all the time. Isn't that right, Gati?
Yes.
We use these flashlights constantly. So this is my flux cup. It's full of what's known as OTs, O-A-T-E-Y-S. OT's brand plumber's flux. These are different tools that I use to apply. This is probably my favorite one. It grabs the flux really well because it's spiraled. This is it's got a pin stuck in it. These are WD-40 straws with a paper clip inside them. Then there's this weird metal spring tip at the end. This is like maybe a fondue fork handle. And then this little holder here is great because when it gets really chopped up from use, we will take a heat gun. It's actually an embossing tool. It's kind of like the same thing in a different style chassis. And we'll remove these sticks because it gets really hot. And then we'll run the hot air in here and remelt it and make it nice and smooth. So this was made smooth tonight. Here we got some Loctite that was used in some of the fasteners in the project. And this is the desoldering tool that I recommend. It's not that much money for this one, but you can easily disassemble it to clean the inside. And that's why this one, it actually works really well. The suction action on it is just better than the $3 to $5 units that I've had in the past. So I think I paid $6, it's probably $10 now after COVID. But that's the one that I really like. Here we have the chassis of the project. There's a pink LED here. You can see my soldering work. Super sloppy. And there's just plumber's flux all over it. It's just full of plumber's flux, literally melting holes through the chassis. And an out of focus shot is the LED here and the output. These two holes are where the potentiometers are going to go. Independent right and left volume controls in this headphone amp. Now I put down some masking tape on the top of the chassis where most of the time of the project it's going to be laying here. And this way, if there's some boogers, goobies, or that flux is not going to melt through and completely have a big hole in the aluminum from the flux that I use. But this masking tape will protect it. So here's the back end. You can see, oh, there's some flux. I've got my 5.5 millimeter outer diameter, 2.1 millimeter, hey, Miller time, inner diameter DC power connector, and this is a 4-way 3.5 mil headphone jack. And you just take that fourth connector and bend it out of the way and get your freak on, boogie. Here is the board. I removed the power connector and just cut in some wires. The polarity doesn't matter on this. It's got some, you can run it on AC, or as you see this symbol here, it'll run on DC as well. Output connectors. These wires are not shielded. This is what came with it, and I used them because my wife wasn't home and I didn't feel like digging out our bag of connectors, because I know I have some shielded wire, 3-way, whatever, 4.5 mil or whatever that is. These are the chip sockets. It came with fake chips. Pull those out, and I use any 5532 I got from Tayda for everything up until the point when the project was finished, and then I put in the Burr Brown OP2134, the high grade $4 a piece op amps, and that was just in case something happened and I fried a chip accidentally as I was monkeying around with all this. So in here was where the stock resistors are to set the gain, and it had 5K. Now, minimum is 5K, that's the quietest. Maximum is 100K. So I removed the micro SMT resistors, and they had holes here for a through hole, but they had soldered over them. So I removed the solder best I could using the desoldering pump, but it always leaves this little drop that I can never get out. So I use a needle. I'll flip it over and put the needle in the hole, put the iron on the side of the needle, and heat it till the needle pops through. And then the solder will cool. I'll pull the needle out with the needle nose pliers, and then there's a hole. So I installed 4 of these sockets, and I tested 47, well, actually it was 51K resistor, and then I went all the way up to 100. I removed the stock LED and tried powering my LED, the ultra bright 5 millimeter pink LED, and it was not enough current in this. So I had to take this tiny thing, put it back up there and heat these pads up and resolder it, and hey, it works. Couldn't believe I was able to repair that, but you could see it's not it's not factory. Now this is where the factory pot comes. I removed that pot and ran 2 sets of 3 each wires out to the independent potentiometers. Now one of these posts, one of these traces lifted. With my needle trick, I lifted one. So I had to get in there and monkey around, and I tried jumpering it, and then I was able to solder to the top side of the pad using some real fine, thin diameter silver solder that my nephew had given me that I saved for special occasions. So that fixed that pad. I think it was maybe this one over here that was bad. But it was like, it worked, and then you'd move the wire and it would lose connection. So eventually I got that stable, and next time I do this, I will just be much more careful. And I will also count everything out, meaning I will go on each pad and look where it goes and use a meter on continuity and then make a chart. So if one of them does break, you can see like this runs back to over here, I'll know, well, this wire goes to here. So I'll solder a jumper wire underneath it and maybe come around to here, or come around off of this point right into the pot. Because basically these pots are right off of the input if you look at the schematic. Make sense? Here's the Burr Brown fancy NE50 or Yeah, those are the NE5532s. When you buy the chips, the prongs are spread out and you got to bend them. The expensive ones, one of them they were spread out, the other one they had been bent, which means somebody had that op amp in something and was running it. And when I bent the tabs, because one of the tabs was bent a little funny, when I bent it back, it started cracking in half. So here, the first time in my life I buy a fancy op amp, it's been used, and somebody has jiggled the post so many times it's ready to crack in half. So I put a blob of solder on it, and it's okay, but that was a real bummer. Real bummer. Here they are. Here's you can see BB, Burr Brown, and here's the pot that I removed. Chassis fastener screws. Here's my pick holder. Hey, this Trond light is really cool. You slide your finger on this, and the LEDs get brighter. It's got a big square LED diffuser, and if you press here, it changes the temperature of the lamp, meaning it goes from white to like yellow or tan light, more of an incandescent. It's really cool lamp, got from Goodwill. Oh, there's my iPod. This is a Creative Labs, and here's some thread locker, but I use this in testing. It's mostly a test device. When I was working, I used to listen to that all the time. I would put my Neil Hamburger comedy albums on and get super depressed. Here's double-sided tape. This is what I use on the bottom side of the circuits to make sure that they don't short out on anything. And they'll kind of stick a little bit, it keeps them from bouncing around. But this, there's two different types, and they're both really strong. This is from the dollar store. It's made by Superglue, and this is really strong stuff. I recommend this for builders. If you're going to be mounting your PCB and you want a quick way to do it, and you're not ashamed to use this, and what's nice about it is you can remove it. It takes a little elbow grease to pull it off of there, but it comes off and it stays put and it does the job. Hey, here's the star of the show, the OPA 2134 PA Burr Brown double B. And I don't know if you can see, that's probably the post that and here it's already, the acid is, you can see I'm sketching out just random numbers that I write on there to try to impress my wife. Oh, look at that. I had a much better picture to tell you everything I did. Okay, yeah, here's where the power wire used to be. And you can see this is my soldering work. Maybe we have a better, yeah, here's what it looked like. This is probably the one that was bad. You can see that bubble there. That's not grabbing anything because this copper is gone. And I was able to get it. I was trying to solder it in from the top, slathering it with flux and going in here and hitting it. It was basically bothering a pain in the neck all throughout the entire process until it stopped working when I got it all boxed up, and then I had to tear it apart and fuck around with it for about an hour, and then I finally got a good solder joint on it. So next time, I'm ordering another board. So it's live and learn, Now I know, and next time I won't make that same mistake. Here is the soldering work that I did. That's not the best. That one looks good. These other ones not so hot. Here's what I pulled out. There's the pot. It's really, it looks a lot bigger in the pictures, but trust me, this is really small stuff. So soldering it is kind of not fun. There's the power connector. And here we see I've just got the pot soldered in, and here I'm doing the stupid four-way connectors. I've got this one bent out of the way because that's NA, but this is kind of fiddly. It's smaller than it looks. These connectors are newer and they're really small. That's the flux. I goobered it all over on there, and then the solder sticks like you would not believe. It sticks really good. Here's where I'm ohming, or I've got it on continuity, and I've plugged an 1/8 inch jack in here. basically I'll unplug this and I'll use these pins to determine that this is ground, this is tip, and this is sleeve. And then when I plug this in, I go through this process and I know this is tip, this is sleeve, and this is ground, the tongue longer one. So I'll write that down on this paper and then wire everything up the same in the input and the output, and it shouldn't flip-flop the channels. The thing was, when I got done, these pots were flip-flop. So when I first had it put together, everything worked just fine. And then I had to move these, and it bent that wire, and it broke what little good connection I had. So I would have been better off if I just would have dealt with it, but the knob on the right adjusted the volume on the left side of the headphone, and that would have driven me nuts. So here I'm showing how, yeah, this is what this is. It's a headphone jack, and I'll put one side of the meter here, put the other side of the meter here, and then I determine what connections are mating up with each other in order to make sure that everything's copacetic and I'm not flipping channels right to left. So here you see I'm tearing off the double-sided tapies, and these were poking through. I ended up peeling this back and snipping this off. Everywhere that it was pokies, I cut them off because I didn't want them eventually making their way through and then shorting on the chassis or something. And I did a double layer. I filled this all up with tape and then did another layer of it. So it's a double layer. As you can see here, there's the double layer. Looks a little messy, but if I was doing this for somebody else, like I said, this was, you know, it was a long process and I screwed up, so I was really in a bad mood and I rushed it at the end. Ideally, I would do this in a couple of days. Take 3 days to do it, because this is actually a lot of work, this project. It's a lot of really difficult soldering, removing stuff on these boards where it's so easy to tear a trace is not fun. And just like even those resistors, there was no room to get in there. It was not fun. So here you see I've got the pots installed, 10 millimeter. I've got this nice little ratchet. I bought that as a treat for myself. I've got another one here, a snap-on one. I'm not sure where that is. So I purchased that as a replacement. This is the back end. This is the audio input and then the power input. The circuit runs on 24 volts AC. Now I also run an equalizer. Oh, hey, here's the little miniature Spade mini toggle power jack, power switch. I completely forgot about the power switch. Otherwise, I would have had a different layout. I would have had, oh, hey, turn it on, turn it off. Otherwise, I would have had the power switch here a little lower and put the LED above it, and then had the headphone over here. Like if I was going to build this for somebody, I would probably do that. Put the power down here, put the LED up here, or next to each other. But as it is now, I got it on the side, and it's just fine. But the only reason that's like that is because I completely forgot about the power switch when I drilled everything out. And hey, they're pretty level. And I like the way these pots look. There's little arrows on the bottom. You can get these with numbers on them, but I pretty much am going to be adjusting this by ear. And there it is. There's the front, looking good. Isn't that a cute little device? And you can see that line. I spit on there and rubbed that with my thumb, and now that line's gone. But this just ended up being an incredibly good sounding headphone amp. With the Burr Brown ICs running at 24 volts, I've got this EQ here, and what I did, I was going to try to get away with running them both on the same 24 volt AC adapter. So I would have it come into this, and then inside of this there would be wire coming around to an output jack, and you would take that power output and run it right into here. So before I started drilling, I got a cable adapter and set it up to test if it can run off of one. You know what? We didn't try the other adapter. It might have worked with that other adapter. We only tried one, and it didn't work. So it's running on there's a 24 volt DC power supply, 500 milliamp for this, and a 24 volt DC power supply for this. And I found both of those on the same day at 2 different resale stores. Hallelujah, praise the Lord, He provides. There's our reverb machine. That's goes through the effects loop of this little mixer. So this is our an MP3 board here, amp board here. This is our rehearsal area. My wife's bass through her multi-effector. This is a little condenser mic that's plugged into these my M channels. These 2 channels are for my wife's bass and stereo. This is a stereo channel for my guitar multi-effector, and then this is the MP3. So that comes out via a 1/4 inch stereo TRS cable right into this EQ, and then coming out 3.5 millimeter or 1/8 inch like headphone jack, and comes right up with a shorty cable into the headphone amp's input, and then output is in front. It's just that they've got separate power supplies, and I had hoped to run them off of one, but what can you do? And the mic is for talkbacks, because we both have headphones on. We can't hear each other, and sometimes I need to give verbal cues like E, A, B. When I've written a piece of music and I'm familiar with the chord changes and my wife doesn't know, I need to be able to tell her what the chord changes are. And it's nice to have talkback at times. It picks up, the condenser mic runs off of it's supposed to run off of 2 C batteries. I put a little wooden dowel in there with 2 screws in it and ran a wire between them to space it out to run it off of an 18650 lithium ion battery, which is the same diameter as a C battery. So that worked out really well. It runs off a rechargeable battery now. And the sound quality is really good. It's a Bose mic that I paid like 13 bucks. It had a super long cable with a stereo connection on the end, 2 RCAs. And when I took it apart, because I had to replace, the cable was broken, munged up in here. So I had to pull the cable through and cut the bad part out and resolder it. Both of these RCAs terminate to a single mono connection. So it's like Bose is selling you this, like it looks like it's a stereo mic and it's mono. Bose. What a freaking joke. But you know what? It does sound really good. It's a really crisp sounding mic. Isn't that room mic excellent, Compty?
What?
Our room mic.
Oh, yeah.
Our talkback mic. It's like, it sounds like a full-blown studio mic. Really sensitive. But if you got the air conditioner on, it's like, wah! So it is what it is, and I prefer it to be that way, so it picks us up nice and equal. Just set it a little lower. Don't you like that pink LED? That's sexy. That's from my friend Pink Jimmy Photon, my good dear friend Pinkster. If you're watching this, I'm sorry I missed your phone call. Let's chat. So here's a close-up. I don't know, that military green, I guess I like it. It clashes with this turquoise, but hey, we got the orange back here, pull it all together. What a good looking little rig. Now my wife will have her own channel. I'm running these 2 off of the headphone output. She's coming off the mains into this micro Q. So if we have people over, we can put a splitter in the micro Q, which you can do that. This is a really good amp, and if you put a splitter, it still sounds awesome. And we've got these superlux headphones. We've got a collection of them, and they all sound about the same. So everyone will have similar sound. Isn't that a neat little setup? I cleaned it up today. It's much cleaner. I took a brush. I used the makeup brush to blow all the shit out of here, and then go over everything with a sponge. So it looks a lot better. Here we go. Isn't that a nice looking little rig? You should hear it. I was listening to an album called Semantical Nightmare. This song called Scorn. Holy shit. I was like, it almost moved me to tears. The echo on when the guitar does this trick and there's a sound effect in there. And then Lullaby. Lullaby is a song with my grandchildren making goo goo gaga noises. And it is what it is. It's a baby lullaby with a ripping guitar solo that comes in like within the first, there's a little intro, and then it's just like, here it is. And I cannot tell you how unbelievably great the sound was with the Burr Brown, with this amp cranked, and I put the EQ on it. I was just like, holy shit. I cannot tell you how great this sounds. If you're an electronics guy, you need to do this. They've got a $10 EQ board that has the BBE Sonic Maximizer chip built in. And then this, so that's 13 for that. And then this is $6, $7 for this. You could build them both into one big chassis if you had to. You know, I would even say buy a big Hammond box and put them all in there, and then get a 24 volt DC adapter. Well, you might end up needing two. Sometimes it's goofy like that where you need separate power supplies. But if you like music and you're a headphone guy, you would be a fool to not get into this. What I'm talking about here. These headphone amps with a good quality EQ, or this is a crappy EQ. Actually, this one came with a decent chip. It has an AD828, which is a really good op amp. This was, I think I paid 8 for this, 8 or 10. The first one that I got was a little cheaper, and it had a bad hum that wouldn't go away. But I cannot tell you how good this sounds, guys. I was getting good sound out of the Micro Q, not bad. It was actually excellent. But this is like mind-blowing. I'm telling you, the amp with the Burr Brown, and you don't need the Burr Brown. The Burr Brown gives you extra clarity, a little bit extra definition in the high end. Any 5532 is fine. The problem is these things come with fake any 5532 chips. Now they're in sockets, which means you could just go in there and pull them out with your fingertips. So you just need to purchase a legitimate NE5532 chip, actually a pair of them. Most of the preamp boards on eBay only have one microchip, one op amp. This one has two, and that's why I got it. Covered the bottom with self-adhesive felt so it doesn't slide around. Oh, it's so nice. Soothing, and my hands are all tore up from working all day on this piece of crap. Yeah, you can see I had cleaned up here. I mentioned cleaning up. There's my talc. I do the Jeff Beck thing, and I put talcum powder on my hands. Here's a shot in the back. The cabling is pretty neat. There's some wires here. This speaker here, I got another speaker on the other side kind of hidden. I've got the small Class D amp that came from a resale store, and we can put that in here. There's a power supply that's got some tape on it. So if we want to use that amp, I pull this cord out, pull the tape off of it, plug the power in, plug these speakers in, and then plug this cable in as the input. And this cable is slaved somehow on the system, and then we can have speakers. And there's all stereo speakers, and there's also a mono. There's another line going up to a monitor speaker that's mono. It's a M Audio BX5, which, man, is that it. I paid $7 for it at Goodwill, but I couldn't believe the performance on that monitor. It's just excellent for us like playing live in here at a low volume or a little bit louder, not to bother the neighbors. But my wife bass sound kick-ass through it. My guitar, the backing tracks. It's just a really good, well-designed bi-amped monitor speaker. You see the power switch? There's some kind of setting, music or voice. I'm not sure what that difference is. I always click it all the way up to music. Maybe I should try putting it in the middle next time. There's my gold bond. I removed the gold bond and filled it up with actual baby powder. And then this is a tool to tighten up my whammy bar. I drilled out a larger hole here where I can stick my whammy bar in that hole. This is a chopped down whammy bar for my Steinberger guitar. And then this tool here is a 1.5 millimeter Allen head. And that's the thing that on the guitar fastens this down. So I keep that the tool in this hole, and I keep the whammy in there, and Bob's your uncle. Here's my pick holder. It's some kind of a heat sink that I screwed into this desk. This is a cable or headphone holder. This is some slides and a brush that I use to clean in between the knobs on the mixer to clean the dust off. There's some travel pick pouch. There's a capo. You can hang wires on there. This is actually magnetic. So I know it looks like, oh, he's got junky equipment. Look at, there's a sticker on there. When people come over, I'll always move it a couple times to see if they're paying attention. And it looks like I've been talking so long, it's St. Patrick's Day again. Aaron, go brah. Wearing the green. And top of the morning to you.